Both calipers now have their pistons and new seals installed. There's only a few more things to do here. Put the bleeder nipples back on. Don't forget the rubber dust cap that goes with it. And for now I'm just going to snug these down because I'll be loosening them again to bleed the system once I've got everything put back together. The next thing that needs to be installed are these anti-rattle springs. I put the one into the left-hand caliper already. This just pushes into place. It's fairly simple. That's it. And this is one of the bushings which fits into the caliper right here. It's nice and shiny. It was nice and rusty. I actually put this on the lathe and I just spun it, and I used some Scotch-Brite to knock the rust back a bit. And I also had to use a file to knock the flared ends off. I think at some point the bolt going through here was over-tightened and it caused the ends to widen out. But now it moves through quite smoothly, as it should. This is just some brake grease, brake lubricant. You can buy this at any auto parts store. It comes in little packets, or you can buy a large tub of it if you happen to do a lot of brake work. Get that greased up, and there are these rubber boots which keep the brake grease from getting out. So I will install one of these. Now, these are the same boots that were on the bike for the last 27 years, and they're in good enough shape to reuse. That one's almost in place. It's not quite snugged into place on the inside. There it goes. Right. And that installs just like that. And then I actually push it past where it needs to be because I've got to get the other boot in on the back side. You'll probably notice I'm no longer wearing the rubber gloves, and this is actually the dirtiest part of the job. However, I've never been good at doing delicate work with those gloves on, so I just live with getting my hands dirty. Anyway, that's one boot installed. And you can see it slides smoothly back and forth, which will allow the caliper to float, which is what we want to happen. The next thing to install is the brake pads. I'm reusing the old brake pads. They're in good shape. And I had them laid out to remember which one goes on which side of the rotor. So on the left front of the bike, this is the outer pad, this is the inner pad. This caliper goes with these pads. So, one, and two. Now to install the pins. These also need a little bit of lubricant, not a lot on these, but you do want them to slide freely. You don't want to douse them with lubricant because they are quite close to the contact surfaces, the friction surfaces of the brake pads, and it's not a good idea to get grease on your brake pads. So they just install like so, taking care to make sure that they go through both brake pads, which they do. And then to get the second one in, push the brake pads down a bit, wiggle it a bit, mumble to yourself, do whatever is necessary to get that second one in. This one's being a bit sticky. Alright, let's see if this shows up. This is the pin that wouldn't go in, and look at that rough edge right there. That's what was hanging me up. I need to clean that up. Simplest method is to use a jeweler's file. . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . . try that again. Okay, now it's going through. So re-lubricate it. And install. Okay, the pins are in place, holding the brake pads in. So what holds the pins in place? There's different designs on this setup. This does it. Hook that over, push it forward, and secure it with the regular hex bolt and a 10mm wrench. Alright, so there's one more thing to do on this caliper before it all goes back together, which is to lubricate this other pin. This is the other mounting pin for the caliper, and since it's the other sliding point, it needs to have a good coating of grease on it too. Now, I would always use proper brake lubricant. Don't just go using axle grease. It'll probably work okay, but it's really not meant for that application, and there's no guarantee it won't run and get all over everything that you don't want grease to get all over. Alright, so that's one done. I'm going to stop filming, do the other one, and then we'll move on to installing them.